You walk into someone's home and it feels different right away. Clean lines, open space, almost nothing on the counters. And the important thing is, everything feels quiet, it feels tidy, and without even trying, you feel calmer just standing there. Then you think about your own place, where your closet is filled to bursting, your desk is buried under all that stuff, and you can't even remember the last time you saw the top of it. And it's not because you don't notice it, you do notice it, for sure, you notice it every day, but the main problem is, you just keep living around it. So, what separates people who thrive with less from those who can't seem to let go? Well, it isn't just tidiness, and it isn't just liking empty spaces, it's deeper than that. It's about how your mind handles control, comfort, and meaning. And as you already know, minimalism isn't really just a preference for clean rooms. I'd say it's a psychological strategy, so let's break it down and let's make this clearer. 1. A high need for cognitive closure. Minimalists tend to score high on what psychologists call the need for cognitive closure, and the important thing is, this is basically your brain's craving for clear answers and a structured environment. Because when your space is cluttered, your brain doesn't see stuff, it sees open loops, it sees unfinished business. That pile of mail on the table, it's a task you haven't closed. Those clothes draped on the chair, it's a decision you still haven't made. And each item creates a tiny cognitive burden, a little stressor that just sits in the back of your mind. So in practice, clutter turns your environment into this endless to-do list, decisions, reminders, little mental tabs left open. And minimalists are the kind of people who feel that static more than most. They feel it. They feel it constantly. Too much stuff isn't just annoying, it can feel suffocating, like everything around them is asking for attention. So what do? Well, they remove the excess noise, they simplify the space, because the main problem is their brain can't fully settle when there are too many loose ends staring back at them. And in a way, they've found a cheat code. Fewer objects means fewer nagging questions for the brain to answer, and it works. Research has found that minimalists report significantly lower anxiety when they're surrounded by fewer possessions, and their brains literally function better in a simplified environment. So it's almost like clearing the clutter clears the mind, kind of like you're shutting down all those open tabs, and that's why some people can live comfortably in piles of collectibles, while others feel overwhelmed the second a room gets messy. 2. An internal locus of control. Minimalists typically have a strong internal locus of control, and the important thing is, they genuinely believe they're in charge of their outcomes, not controlled by circumstances, trends, or material things around them. And you can see this really clearly when you think about advertising. Someone with an external locus of control might watch a flashy car commercial and feel like, if I just buy that car, my life will finally change. They put hope in the purchase itself, like the right thing will fix everything. But minimalists resist that trap because they trust their own agency more than any promise a product can sell. They aren't sitting around waiting for a new gadget or outfit to make them happy. They're more likely to think, I can build happiness through what I do, not through what I buy. For them, a new phone is just a tool, not a ticket to a better life. And studies on consumer behavior show minimalists are far less influenced by social pressure and trends, for sure. They don't buy something just because everyone else is buying it, and they don't buy it just because an ad insists life will be better with it. They make decisions based on actual need, not on keeping up. And here's the main problem most people miss. Owning more doesn't just cost money, it costs attention. Because owning less means there's less to manage, which reinforces their sense of autonomy. Every item you don't own is one less thing that demands your time and energy, fewer appliances to fix, fewer clothes to wash, fewer bills to pay. And that simplicity makes a minimalist feel more in control of life, instead of feeling controlled by their possessions. So let's break it down, and let's make this clearer. 3. Lower materialism and higher experiential values. Psychologist Tim Kasser's research shows that strong materialistic values are often linked to insecurity and lower well-being. A lot of people who chase possessions are really trying to fill a psychological gap. They're compensating for something that feels missing. You see it in real life. Someone keeps buying expensive shoes or gadgets to boost their self-esteem or impress other people, but that rush never lasts. It fades fast, and then they need the next thing. Minimalists tend to work differently. They've found validation through other means, internally, through relationships, through experiences, so they don't need objects to prove who they are. They're not defining self-worth by the brand of a watch or the size of a house. When they look for happiness, they look inward or toward other people, not toward the mall. Studies by psychologists Van Boven and Gilovich show that experiential purchases, like trips, concerts, or classes, create more lasting satisfaction than material purchases. Minimalists seem to get that instinctively. They'd rather spend time and money on travel, learning something new, or making memories with people they care about than on accumulating more possessions. For example, instead of buying a bigger TV, a minimalist might spend that money on a weekend getaway or a cooking class with friends, and that reflects a deeper difference in identity. Minimalists see themselves as defined by what they do and who they connect with, not what they own. Their stories, skills, and relationships become the real treasures, not the objects sitting on a shelf. 4. Sensitivity to environmental overstimulation. Some people are simply more sensitive to sensory input, and this trait shows up in about 20% of the population. For them, a busy or cluttered environment isn't just a little annoying, it's genuinely overwhelming. A chaotic space doesn't only look messy, it feels messy. Bright lights, loud noise, too many objects everywhere, it can be a lot for their system to process. And in a cluttered room, every object competes for attention, so your brain never fully gets a break. It's just constant mental noise, constant low-level stress. Studies using MRI scans show that visual clutter can activate the brain's stress response, basically putting your mind on high alert. And minimalists often fall into the group of people whose brains react more intensely to that kind of chaos. That's why clean, open spaces feel calming to them. It's not a preference, it's relief. If you're sensitive like this, walking into a tidy minimalist room can feel like a breath of fresh air, while walking into a crowded, disorganized room can make your heart speed up. And this also explains why minimalism for them usually goes beyond possessions. It turns into a whole lifestyle of streamlining. They tend to prefer simple schedules, fewer commitments, routines that don't constantly surprise them. They might say no to extra social events or projects, not because they're antisocial, but because they know they need downtime to recharge. So in short, they're creating calm across all areas of life, not just their living room. They keep the environment uncluttered, they keep the calendar uncluttered, and that's how they protect their mental well-being. 5, a future-oriented perspective. Basically, they think about long-term consequences more than immediate gratification. So when they're considering a purchase, they don't just ask, do I want this right now? They also ask, will I still want it in a year? Where will it go? What happens if I move? They mentally step into the future and check if that item will still add value later, not just today. And that kind of thinking naturally slows down mindless accumulation. It creates a pause, a built-in stop before the impulse takes over. Research shows that people who are more future-oriented tend to save more money, stick to healthier habits, and avoid impulsive choices. Minimalism fits that mindset perfectly. Again and again, minimalists choose long-term simplicity over short-term indulgence. It's not really about depriving themselves, it's more that they prioritize future peace over a quick thrill. One deliberate decision at a time, they're choosing lasting contentment instead of fleeting satisfaction. Understanding the psychology behind minimalism shows it's not about obsessing over having as little as possible, and it's not about copying some trendy aesthetic just to look a certain way. For the people who are drawn to it, living minimally isn't deprivation, it's just a natural expression of how they think and what they value. If minimalism clicks for you, you probably have a brain that craves order, values autonomy, finds meaning in experiences, or naturally thinks ahead. And maybe you recognize yourself in one of those traits. And if minimalism doesn't appeal to you, that's fine too. It might just mean you thrive on variety, or you feel comfort and inspiration when you're surrounded by more things. Some people honestly feel energized by a bit of chaos and abundance. The key is knowing your own psychology and building a life that works with it, not against it. If you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy the next one too, so subscribe and drop a comment with your take. Do you feel calmer with less, or do you prefer being surrounded by your favorite things? Let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.